How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. This is part 2 of this engine build, the D16 budget build, and today we're going to be assembling the engine back together again. So you would have seen from the previous video that I've already notched the block. I've test fit the rods to make sure they work. I've got the crank in the lathe and I have just teardropped this off. Sometimes it's harder to see with that on. Sorted. So we're getting to the stage where we need to clean everything down. I'll save you all the board and stuff. I'll just give it a wipe down and a clean down. And basically I'm going to use my parts washer and some brake fluid and blow everything out so it's nice and clean. Right, what we're going to do now is give it a quick, this is the oil pump obviously. We're going to give it a little bit of a port, so we'll crack off these bolts and we'll have a look inside. Crack off them. These are pretty much, I'm going to say near enough a must. They're so easy to get off. You basically put it down in the screw and hit the top of a hammer and then it just spins it off. So porting these pumps, I'm not doing anything like, I'm not doing any sort of secret sort of, you know, porting or anything like that. It gets sucked in from here, basically compressed and then pushed out through here. But as you can see, you know, it's a bit rough. There's not like, it's not smooth, and this piece here obviously needs ported out as well. It's a bit small, which goes, you know, you can check the size of that compared to what it actually goes in on the block. It's a lot bigger, and yeah, basically port this so that the higher RPM stops cavitation and lets it flow a little bit more. This here is your oil pressure relief. And basically there's a spring in here that pushes down on a sort of ball as such, and it basically releases the pressure from the main oil back into the pump. And to increase oil pressure, basically you stick a washer behind the spring, which holds the plunger down harder, which increases your oil pressure. So yeah, just going to get my little porting tool. I'm going to port out all this in here and port out that bit there, and that should really be it. So this is all cleaned out and ported now. I don't know if you can see the difference now, but basically I've put a nice wee radius on this edge around here, and just a little port to kind of smooth this round. Obviously opened it up, but you don't want to have it completely opened up and straight. I tried to get, you know, a nice radius to try and get the oil around that corner. And this piece here, as you can see, I've opened it up and ported this now, so there's no big steps now. It's nice and flowed into there, right into the tube. That's what I've done there. So what I'm going to do now is basically stick all the gears back in again with some engine assembly lube, so it's ready for the first start. Chuck in the blank plug here and then put in the spring with a wee washer. So here it is. Here's the plunger at the bottom, the spring and the top cap, and yeah, all I'm going to do is fit a washer you know, over the height of that, which just basically pushes this down very slightly. Only about 1.5 mil, nothing too wild, but it might bump it up maybe 10-20 psi. So the washer I'll use is just a copper washer. It's 8 mil by 12 mil by 1 mil. I'm trying to do this one hand without it firing off and clean into the distance. You know, just there we go, that's her tight. So I'm happy. Head, not really going to do fuck all with that. I'll probably drill a couple of ports in here because I'm going to run coolant pressure and you know, for if I start lifting the head, which I probably will, and oil pressure as well. We'll use transducers, but yeah, everything's looking not bad now. So I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to start working on the top. I'll give this top deck a bit of a clean up, clean all this down, probably just use a bit of Scotch-Brite on a flat plane. Then I'm going to start on pistoning gaps and all this sort of stuff. It's not how-to, this video should say, you guys. If you want to watch how-to stuff, you know, YouTube it, there's dedicated videos that show you exactly how to do stuff. So up until now, you know, things have been pretty budget, you know, doing everything myself, giving everything a bit of a clean and a port. It's all good, but this is where it starts to get really ghetto. I've got this stuff here called Abro copper sprayer gasket, and I plan on reusing the stock head gasket that came on this engine. So it's not the best looking, and you know, this is all nice and clean, and I'll clean up the head as well to give it a best chance. I've seen folk use this stuff and never seen too much complaints about it. If the head starts lifting, it's going to blow this. It'll blow the stock gasket. It'll blow a new one anyway. I'm hoping these Chinese ARP fucking head studs hold it down enough, but we'll see. But yeah, I'm gonna try this stuff just to try and keep a budget. I mean, it's only £70 for another gasket, but again, if the stock one works and it is bolted down solid with this stuff, you know, in theory it should be okay, but we'll see. But this is where I say I'll probably look back at this point in the video once the head gasket goes and think to myself, fucking bastard. So nah, well, we'll see how it goes. Like I say, guys, it's not the end of the world if this head gasket blows. It's easy to whip off the head and just chuck on another gasket. I mean, you've seen it. It was like 10 bolts. Shee! So, this is where it starts to get pretty cool. Like I say, I'm not going to film it all, but you'll get the gist. I'm running these max speeding rods, just to get them off eBay. I think I got these for £180 delivered, and they come with genuine ARP 2000 bolts. And yes, I've checked up, and ARP do supply these to them, and they look all legit. So I'm pretty happy with that. So yeah, we'll do the clearance in a little bit, but I need to do piston rings just now. I was taking one of the piston rings off, and look at that. Second ring snapped. So, I was thinking to myself, that's it. The whole thing's fucked. Gonna have to get another set of piston rings. But, the stock piston rings on the first ring actually fits onto the second ring of these. These are SRP, don't know if you can see up in here, SRP racing pistons, which I think formally now are called JE. So I'll be using these pistons basically. I got them second hand for £150, so that's another thing to add up. What you've got here basically is you've got your thin rings and your oil scraper on the bottom. Or oil rail, sometimes it's called as well. And I just start off with them first, and I stick them in the bore. And basically, I just measure to make sure that this oil rail, you know, this doesn't have much clearance as such. You just want to have a bit of a gap on the oil rail, and to make sure that these guys butt up as well. So because these are second-hand piston rings and pistons and stuff like that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stick them in the block, and whatever the largest fitting sort of clearance is, if it's like 0.55 millimeters, which is fucking huge, I'll use that. And I'll just make sure they're all the same. And if I'm 0.55 on the second ring, my top ring, I always go slightly tighter, so 0.50. This gasket here is kind of getting there. It's quite cold, so I'm not sure if it's drying too fast, but just give it a couple of layers just to kind of chase it up. So guys, I'm gapping the rings just now. The way I do it is different from most. I just get basically a bit of glass, so it's nice and flat, and I put the ring on in between the glass and the sandpaper, and then I go back and forward, obviously making sure it's nice and square. And because glass is like one of the flattest surfaces on earth, I use that. So the first rings, I've already gapped them to 0.4 of a millimeter, and I'm going to gap these to 0.45. Yeah, one of the reasons I like to use sandpaper on a bit of glass is you can actually see, you know, the line of when you're grinding it down, and that way you can actually make sure that you're flat and square, because obviously if you're not flat and square, that's when you start getting dodgy edges. And as you can see, like, it might be hard to see in the GoPro, but it's completely square to each other. So I have like a spring compressor, but I don't like using it. I don't know why. I see folks set it up and all that, and they just fucking smash the piston in. But I didn't like that, because if you nick a ring, again, or crack it or whatever, it's never going to be good. So I always just put it in gently. I just do it by hand. I can press the springs in with my fingers and push down at the same time, nice and gentle, and get the pistons in. So what I do is, inside the board there, I just chuck down some oil. This stuff's like the nastiest 10W40 mineral oil that you can buy. It's just the cheapest shit. Yeah, we're wanting it to sort of, you know, not be that lubricating when we first start this up. So I drop it down basically to there, and then I just compress the oil ring in with my fingers and just chase it round basically. So we have pistons are all in, obviously rods are up, shells are in the bottom there, they're dry, but these are all lubed up because I want them dry. I have obviously I'm using the stock bearings with the stock crank, so that's not going to be an issue. But I have measured out these bearings and they are fine. But just for sakes and just for sanity, I'll plastic gauge them anyway, just so I've got some sort of visual reference. I'm using this Lucas engine assembly stuff, and it is sticky icky, like Jesus, proper sticky. So it's obviously good for a start up. There we go. Also, it's very important at the back of the bearings you keep dry. So as I've got here, ARP Specialist grease on the bolts. I've got the stretch gauge here all set up. I've got my stretch numbers, I've got my torque wrench, I've got the whole setup ready to go. And this is why I need to have the girdle off, because I can't get the, I can't get the bolt stretch gauge in when the girdle's on. So let's get to it. I probably won't film this bit because I'm actually learning myself to use the stretch gauge, and it's a bit of a chew to try and teach you what's happening when, you know, I don't really know myself. But to be fair, you get lots of videos on YouTube showing you how to do this, so yeah, it's trial and error for me. I'm just going to give it a wee shot, and you'll just have to take my word for granted. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. If I fuck up, I'll probably tell you I win, but, you know, I'll just fucking send it anyway. So I've got there eventually. I'll give you a quick show of what I'm up to with this. So basically in here, I calculate out what free bolt is. Basically, I find the lowest value, then I zero out the marker here. So I get to the lowest point. Then when I torque it up, I torque it to spec, 45 Newton meters, which is 61 Newton meters, sorry. 45 foot-pounds is 61 Newton meters. However, I found that wasn't enough and it didn't stretch the bolts enough. I actually end up going up to 71, which then gives me the perfect stretch of 0.0055 inch. Oh yeah, bottom end is all together now, sump is on, head studs are in. Just the ARP Chinese ones from China, and yeah, we're getting there. Next I'm going to chuck on the gasket we sprayed, and then chuck on the head. Gasket is looking shiny, everything's looking awesome. This is the head. I've not really ported it, I've not done anything actually. I've just give it a wipe down, and just going to chuck that on just now, and then that'll pretty much be that. And there we have it, everything back together again. I need to go over some bits and bobs for timing stuff on distributors, and I need a couple of pulleys. I think I need a front pulley and stuff like that, and chuck the timing belt on, and I'll get rid of this gasket and get a multi-layered steel one. But I'll leave it at that, and I'll just say just now, guys, much appreciated for all the support. Welcome to all the new subscribers. It's so much fun, like, interacting with you guys and getting involved with these builds. This thing, the budget build, is going to be epic, I'm sure of it. Anyway guys, you guys stay classy, and we'll catch you in the next vid. Cheers.